Welcome, everyone, to Making Waves. This is the official podcast of Delgado Community College. Today, we're going to dive deep into a powerful story about the city and how the people and our college rebuilt and how Delgado made a comeback stronger in the 20 years since Hurricane Katrina. Today on the show, we have some amazing folks here to talk to us about the rebirth and the progress of education here at the college. We have the Chancellor, we have Coach Joe, and we have Dr. Theresa Degruy. Thank you all for being here today to talk about this important milestone.
Our pleasure.
Happy to be here.
Great. Glad to be here.
All right, let's get straight to it. Chancellor, of course, we want to start with you. Where were you? Take us back 20 years. Let's hear all about where you were and where we are now.
So 20 years ago, I had just had my middle child, Blake. Blake was actually 2 months old when Katrina hit. And so young mother, young family, young professional, right? And the world was just destroyed from where I stood, right? And so I remember leaving to evacuate with the mindset that we're going to come back, right? We're just going to go to Texas. It'll be for the weekend. We'll be back. And lo and behold, my world was upside down when the levees broke. We only had enough clothes to last us for that short trip. So we found ourselves trying to purchase food, purchase clothing, baby formula, and the like, right? And so we ended up staying in Texas for a few weeks, and then we began to come back to Louisiana. But what I will tell you is this. At the time, we had a chancellor. His name was Alex Johnson. And Alex Johnson made a decision. And that decision was that wherever you are, whatever it is you may be doing, let me know, and we will continue to pay you. And so as we began to make our way back to Louisiana, we found it hard to come back. So we ended up going back to Texas. And what we did was we stood up, we reached out to students who were in Texas, like, where are you? And we were able to work with Houston Community College system to bring our students who were located in Texas to continue education. And it was because we had a chancellor who was like, look, I got you. So we had this institution. And so eventually we began to migrate back and to come back home. My home, for whatever reason in my neighborhood, was not damaged, but everything around us was. My mother-in-law lost everything, so she had to move in with us. So imagine a 7-year-old son, a 2-month-old son, my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my husband and I, right? But at the same time, we were trying to build back Delgado Community College. So we were reaching out to students. We were finding out where they were. We stood up online classes for the very first time ever. This college was the first to do so, and it was out of need. It was out of necessity, but it was also because we knew that education was the answer to it all. Right? And so because of that, we were able to stand up online classes, and eventually we began the rebuilding process. We began to rebuild the City Park campus, which turned into the rebuilding and the revitalization of the Mid-City Lakeview area, because once they saw Delgado come back, then that meant that, there is hope for this city. We're going to begin to come back. And so, what Katrina means to me, what I will tell you, is that it's a symbol of strength. When COVID happened, I said, you know what? It's meant for me to be here because I went through Katrina and I know what all of this feels like. And I know that out of disaster and crisis, innovation can come, especially if you have a leader who believes in you, who's loyal to you and your family. That loyalty is going to come back tenfold, just as it did with Katrina.
I have a question about that. When you go through that process and this 20-year-long process, was there a turning point? Was there something significant that stands out to you where you thought, yes, we are going to make it stronger? What was that moment?
That moment was when we were driving to Baton Rouge, because every day we would drive to Baton Rouge when we did come back. Every day we would drive to Baton Rouge. The system office set up shop for us. So, my colleagues had lost everything, but yet and still they were driving to Baton Rouge every single day. That aha moment went off when we would get to Baton Rouge and Harold Gaspard, who's been with the college 50 years, he would have breakfast made. And then he would have lunch for us. And we had phone banks going. And we were, reaching out, finding staff, putting their checks in the mail, right? Reaching out to students, seeing where they were, what they needed, getting them enrolled in classes through other community colleges and the like. That's when the aha moment for me hit, because I'm standing next to an individual whose home is devastated, but you're driving to Baton Rouge to stand up an institution, not just any institution, an institution that you love, doing the work that you love to do. That was the aha moment for me.
And Dr. Degruy, same thing. You were involved in the recovery. What was it like on the ground, helping to bring the stability back?
Well, for me, when I think about, that 20 years ago and what it was like, it was so devastating and hard. And thinking about the trauma, not only what I went through as an employee, I was also going through the trauma as a student because I was enrolled and working on my advanced degree at the time. And so I wasn't working at Delgado, but I was working here in the city at another institution. And so seeing what was happening for everyone, it was really traumatic. I think about, Camille, where I was. I moved to New Orleans in 2001. So I'm excited about being in New Orleans. I'm excited about the culture. I'm, coming from Mississippi, I'm excited about all of this. And then 2005 hit and Katrina, and I'm like, okay, what happens now? And so my parents were like, you don't need to go back to New Orleans when the city opened up. And I'm like, no, I need to go back because I feel like there's still so much work to do. There are people who are displaced, and I want to be involved. I want to help rebuild. I want to be a part of the city when it comes back. And so that's what I did. And as a result, I also wrote my dissertation on students returning back to school after Hurricane Katrina. Like, what were the motivational factors that led them to come back? And I also lived in a FEMA trailer, next door to students because I wanted to feel exactly what they were going through. I want to hear their stories, and I also want to be a part of the rebuilding and the recovering of the city.
Coach, it was a big one for you too. Where were you?
Yes. So the Saturday before the storm hit, literally 2 days before the storm hit, we're doing athletic physicals in the gym.
Just a normal day.
A normal day. And, we're talking with the two basketball coaches at the time, and we're talking about, hey, we're going to have to watch this thing because if it gets too bad, we're going to have to make sure we take care of all the players and know where everybody is. So thankfully, we had enough insight there to accumulate all the information that we needed. And lo and behold, 2 days later, we're scrapping for it. But I'll never forget, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who worked in the emergency operation office at Jefferson Parish about probably 11 o'clock on Saturday night. He said, Joe, get your family out of here. It's going to be bad. So I said, call Mom, call my sisters. Went and picked my high school coach's sister up, who was 80 years old. Basically had to fight her into the car to make her leave. But we ended up in Baton Rouge. And, God looks after the ignorant. I tell everybody all the time, because why Baton Rouge, I don't know. But that's where we ended up. Long story short, checked into a hotel, 2 hotel rooms. By the time the storm hits, I had 13 people, a rabbit, 3 dogs.
A rabbit?
And Tyler and I in 2 hotel rooms,
oh,
and all women, by the way. Try that one on for a long time. But so the storm hits, and we don't know how bad it is. But I talked to a longtime security guard, and they'd be cursed now because it's now police, Delgado Police. But he was called a security guard at the time, and he was still on campus. And I called him up for some reason. I said, hey, I said, look, the morning after the storm, he goes, Coach, man, you got smoked. You got poles down. You got fence down. I said, what about water? Any water? He said, no water. That was probably 11 o'clock in the day. At 10 o'clock that night, he called me back. He said, I'm on the railroad tracks on Canal Boulevard. You got 12 foot of water in your house. I was like, oh, wow. So it's, I still tear up about it, but
we're triggered by it. Even 20 years later, when we talk about it, we still feel the impact of that because it was very strong. We live with it every day. It's something we'll never forget. Chancellor, let's talk about, at that time, were you even able to think or wrap your mind around the future of what the college would look like?
No, not at all. I did not know what it would look like. There was hope, right? But at the same time, there was trepidation because you just didn't know. So you were still in a state of fear because everywhere you would go, I mean, we could not purchase groceries here. We had to drive to Baton Rouge to purchase groceries, right? And so although we were back, we were not really back. So when we would go to Baton Rouge for work, we would have to stop in Baton Rouge and get what we needed. And we were called refugees. Yes. You know, that is the thing that I think even now for me is just so troubling to wrap my head around. When this happened and we were in Texas, we were refugees in our own country, right? And so, no, the answer to that, Camille, is we did not know what the future looked like. We just knew that we were working to rebuild. And we were taking it day by day. And literally, we would drive to Baton Rouge and we would walk in the room and say, okay, what are we doing today? And you would just fit in wherever the need was. If it was the phone bank answering phones, if it was making phone calls to people, if it was mailing checks and doing payroll, by hand or running errands, whatever needed to be done.
I remember that little house.
The little house, yes.
Everybody went to the little house.
What's the little house? Tell us.
I guess it was a building that wasn't used on BRCC's campus, and they basically said, okay, Delgado, you all operate out of this.
Yeah.
Probably had 6 or 8 rooms in it.
Yeah.
But you'd go around each day, somebody was in a different room. So you'd have to go around and see who got there first to see what room they had. But eventually, some organization, I tell you, Dr. Johnson, wow, what could we say about him? He was awesome, but so were the long timers like Doc and Jimmy Egan and
Debbie
Lee, and then
Harold.
Yeah. Harold's a pretty good cook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Come to find out, right? Come to find out. Dr. Degruy, when you look at the Delgado students today, what do you think the qualities are that you see that connect back to those Katrina lessons?
I see resilience. I see determination. I see that drive and motivation that these students have. Like what people experience during that time, Camille, was lots of trauma. When I listened to Dr. Steib talk about going back and forth to Baton Rouge, she and many others, working to make sure other people are okay, but experiencing hardship at the same time. And that's what I think about with our students here at Delgado, experiencing all type of crisis, going through what you're going through, but yet you still pushing through, you still coming to class, you still doing what you're supposed to do as a student, regardless of what's happening around you, regardless of what it looks like, regardless of what it feels like, you still pushing through. And so I see resilience in these students. I see determination, Camille, and I see that drive to keep moving forward in spite of.
Do you guys talk to any of the students from then
and
see where they are now?
Yeah, I have a pretty good rapport with that club. Really, that year was really the first team I took to the World Series the following year for my first trip to the Junior College World Series. So all my kids were pretty local. I stay in touch with a lot of them. The neat thing about it, Camille, is they're now parents, right? So you looked at them as kids. Now they have 2 and 3 kids apiece. So this past weekend we made a quick trip to the coast for the last real weekend for me to be free. And while we in there, we stopped at Buc-ee's, of course, right? Everybody's got to go to
Of
Buc-ee's.
course.
Everybody goes to Buc-ee's.
So we in Buc-ee's, and two of that Katrina teams were in Buc-ee's, and one of them walked up to me with his little son, and the other one came with his 2 daughters, and we kind of had a pretty nice little moment there. But you don't envision it as man, they're adults now. They were children when Katrina hit. I just look at my son and daughter; they were children, but it helped mature these kids. That they learn life lessons that we can't teach. Right? Katrina did that.
Mm-hmm. And what we showed them, how we, Chancellor, to your point, we just kept moving forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
We didn't know what we were moving forward toward. We just
Yeah.
one foot in front of the other, and the kids saw that. The
Yeah.
students saw that too.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a huge impact on
There's
them.
no doubt about it. I really believe, and I think into it probably too much at times, but it was the renaissance of my program because it made me get off my butt a little bit and work a little harder and realize that we had to do some things that we haven't had done in the past. And at the same time, it gave my program the visibility because we were successful in doing what we had to do to save the program. It was really a big point in the success of my program today, to be honest.
Chancellor, we've since 20 years ago built new buildings and new programs and changed the way that enrollment is done. So many things have changed.
Yes.
Where do you see the future? What's the next wave, if you will, that you want Delgado to make?
Oh my God. Delgado has just been resilient through the years, right? And this institution just continues to amaze me. You know, sometimes I sit back and I am amazed. And it's really about the people. It's really about the individuals that I have working with me every single day who are go-getters, who are high achievers that have just made this institution just continue to shine and be number one. You know, for me, Delgado has to become the college of first choice, right? We have to become that open door institution where it's just, I'm going to go to Delgado first. And we're getting there with partnerships like Ochsner, right? That beautiful building that we have sitting on the corner was just an opportunity for us to say, this is how old meets new. This is how innovation happens, a public-private partnership, right? And so for us, the college being that entity, that is the entity that brings everyone together, the institution that's able to, you know, transform lives daily. So the horizon, the future is great for Delgado Community College. We continue to evolve. We continue to pivot and do what's necessary so that we are resilient, number one, but also that we're here for the community and we're here for the students that we serve.
Yeah, that's an important thing, the community as well.
I think that's the greatest thing about Delgado. You know, we've had numerous conversations about that, but this place is a melting pot. I mean, there's smart, there's, you know, white kids, black kids, Hispanic kids, international students. There's kids that have to take remedial classes, but yet there's kids that are really ready to get into med school with some of the test schools that they enter the nursing school with. So, I mean, it attracts so many people, and I think the city's starting to catch on, to be honest with you. You look at our numbers compared, I don't want to sound like a politician here, but I mean, you look at our numbers compared to some of the numbers in other institutions in the city. I mean, we're holding our own, and it's because of the product that we're producing. You know, I always said when I first got the job here, kids really didn't brag about playing Delgado baseball, you know. So my first rule was, when you come to practice, you wear a Delgado shirt. And if you're not proud to wear the Delgado shirt, then you go play somewhere else. Well, now I walk around the city, got guys with Delgado baseball shirts on.
I see it
So,
too.
and same thing with Delgado students. You know, I'm in a grocery store the other day, and here's a little girl with a Delgado hoodie. I said, "Hey, like that wardrobe you got?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm a student there." I said, "Yeah. All right, good
All
start."
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, they start to take pride in being here, which is very, very important.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We want them to be prideful, you know, love where you go, enjoy it, be proud to be from Delgado, you know, tell everybody. And so I'm with you, Coach. When I see them in the stores with the Delgado gear, I'm rooting them on. I'm like, oh, I work at Delgado.
I got to tell y'all a story. This is probably unrelated, but it is related. So we had a gentleman, a sports writer, about 10 years ago, come speak to our campus. And one of the questions, when he opened it to question, is why doesn't Delgado get more coverage in the newspaper? And he kind of gave it, well, you know, you got the LSU Tigers and you got the Tulane Green Wave, and a young lady who asked the question, it was almost like a planted question. You would have thought I told her to ask, but the lady said, yeah, but we have more students in Tulane, you know, and we have, you know, our city Delgado serves our city more than probably anybody. She goes, I want you to do something. When you're riding home today, look in the back left-hand window of the car in front of you. And I guarantee you're going to see a Delgado sticker before you see a Tulane sticker, a LSU sticker, a UNO sticker. And you know what? From that day, 10 years ago, I do that every day.
You looking
I do that every day.
Yeah, and Coach, do
And
you
guess
look
what?
at the window to see who's driving?
Yeah, and I look to see if it's an orange or green or purple sticker too. You know? But it's amazing how many people Delgado touches.
Yeah.
Because it's I'm telling you, it's 10-1 in the back left corner stickers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Coach. for that sidebar. But you're right. I look and see if it's Barbara. I'm like, is that Barbara?
Me too. Look, and when I see the sticker, I drive up a little bit closer to see if it's somebody that I know. Like, who is it?
It really is amazing though how many you see.
Yeah.
I mean it's and this young lady said compare it to the other schools, and it's true.
What lessons do y'all carry from with you from that time?
For me, it's leadership. I saw leadership firsthand, right? So we talked a little bit about Alex Johnson, who was the chancellor at that time. Dr. Johnson was not from Louisiana. He was from Ohio. So he could have easily packed his bags and went home because he did lose everything here. And his home here was devastated. He could have gone to Ohio and never came back. At the time, we didn't have virtual remote work, so I don't know what that would have looked like for him. But he literally could have left. He chose to stay, and he chose to rebuild Delgado Community College. And he made a very tough decision, and I'll tell you why. All of my friends who worked in higher education and in other industries, they were laid off. We were not laid off. We were not let go. So I didn't have to go stand in long lines, right, to receive assistance. He made the decision that if you let me know where you are, we will continue to pay you. And that, sitting in this role now, because at that time I was a coordinator. I mean, I was not on the, I was not in the ranks. So for a young mother with 2 kids, someone making the decision to continue to pay me, you thought about me. You thought about my well-being. You thought about my family. That was leadership. And that was a risk because I could only imagine what he had to do to go to the board and get that approved without knowing if he was even going to have the funding to continue to do it. He did.
I'll never forget the conversation I had with him in the little house, right? So I said, hey, Doc, I know you got a million things on your plate and probably athletics isn't one of them, but is it possible if we get, can we have a baseball season, right? Now, you remember, this is in August this happened, and baseball isn't going to start until February. And he looked at me, he says, Coach, we're going to honor your scholarships. He goes, but I don't know financially how we're going to be able to support athletics. I said, well, if I raise the money, can we have it? He goes, absolutely. He goes, if you raise the money, you have a season. And that was really the driving force. What I didn't want to happen was, I wasn't the athletic director at the time, but I didn't want the athletic program to go dormant for a whole year because then it would have been a lot easier to say we don't need it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I felt it very important to keep it going and keep it. And I know as a coach, I didn't want to lose my players because that meant 2 years now that I'm going to have to go back and rebuild. So I knew if we set it on letting it be dormant, it would be a 3-year process before we got it back. And then he said, look, man, let me tell you something. If you can get it done, get it done. And I put my foot to the gas pedal, and we got it done.
Yeah.
One lesson?
So lesson I saw was caring for people. It was about people first. No matter what we were going through individually in our own lives, what would happen to us, losing a lot, we still cared about people. Making sure people had what they needed, making sure students got what they needed. And when I watch these stories about Hurricane Katrina, and I'm thinking about how the world pictured us as refugees when we were in different places, and they seeing the images of what happened at the Superdome and the images of what happened at the convention center, they didn't realize, we are people. We are real people who care about people. And when you mentioned, Dr. Steib, about Dr. Johnson caring and could have gone anywhere, I'm being from Mississippi, I could have stayed in Mississippi or stayed in Tennessee, but because my love for New Orleans and my love for New Orleans people and what I saw, seeing people helping people, putting people first, regardless of what happened to you, that's what drove me back, So that putting people first, regardless of what is happening in your own lives, was a big difference.
The caring part.
Yes.
Yeah.
Camille, you want to know how far we came? You know how far we came since Katrina?
How far?
I got my first text message after Katrina.
Oh, that's when we learned how to
I didn't know what a text message was.
Yeah. I had a Nextel.
So I'm in my hotel room and my phone starts making this funny noise, and my daughter, who was in 4th grade, said, "Dad, you're getting a text message."
How did she
I
know
said,
that?
"What in the heck are you talking about?" She goes, "Look." And sure enough, that's when we found a place to live, the the gentleman who owned the fairgrounds said, hey, sent me a text. He says, I have a fishing camp. If you're looking for a place to settle down, give me a call. And my phone wouldn't work, but my text messages would.
Oh, yeah, phones would not work. That's how I end up with a 901 number that I still have to this day.
Are you serious?
And I never want to change it back because it reminds me of what happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I kept that 901 number because I left with a 504 number, but the phone stopped working.
The amazing thing, I could talk to 3 people. It's like the last 3 people that used my phone were the only people I could call. I guess it's because of the tower.
Yeah.
That went out. The battery went out in the tower, but so I could talk to 3 people, but I could text the world.
All right, before we wrap up today's conversation, you guys, I just want to end on a more personal note, if you don't mind, if you would oblige. We've talked about leadership. We've talked about resilience, how far Delgado's come in 20 years since the storm. But I want to get just a quick chance to get to know you. Okay, give the folks a chance to know who you are. I want to do a quick round robin. Is that okay with y'all?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so quick questions, quick answers. All right. In one sentence, we'll start this way and then we'll go this way.
I don't know if that's possible.
Oh, come on, Coach. All right. In a sentence, in a word, what does making waves mean to you at Delgado 20 years after Katrina?
Moving forward.
Innovation.
Keeping it going.
Keeping it going. Looking ahead, what's the next big dream you have for Delgado in the next 20 years?
A turf baseball field.
Chancellor?
More public-private partnerships.
Dr. Degruy?
More buildings at Sidney Collier.
All right. If you had a free afternoon, no meetings, no practices, no classes, no responsibilities, how would you spend it in New Orleans?
Playing golf.
A tourist in my own city.
Touring my city as well.
It's so fun to do. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and looking forward, sharing your dreams with us as well. We want to end this episode of Katrina 20 years later. It has been a pleasure to chat with you guys. We've learned a lot and we have a lot of hope still for the future.
Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for having
you.
me. It was great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.